What's up, people? This is S. Foster, and you are listening to another episode of 28 Minutes or Less. And this is episode 29 of the podcast, man. This was one of those podcasts, man, where I was really inspired by something. And this is the subject matter today is actually the sequel of something that I started. I did an episode 3 years ago on the Stolen Time podcast that I do with Uncle Washington. Shout out to him. I did an episode 3 years ago called Cudi Saved My Life. And this is basically Cudi Saved My Life 2. Um, I finally got through the Man on the Moon 3 album by Kid Cudi. And a lot of people that knows me knows that I'm a huge Kid Cudi fan. Not only because of his artistry, not only because of his music, not only because of the type of person that he is, but his music moves me in a different kind of way because he is he's just so different of a guy, and he shows all his vulnerabilities and all of this type stuff. And the reason why I say Cudi saved my life, because I went through a lot of bullshit, like not only in the last couple of years of my life, but also like really growing up. And I can relate to a lot of the things that he say, because he says one song that really stood out to me on this Man on the Moon 3, um, Elsa's Baby Boy. And he talks about how he was lonely in the winter. He was like, he got two older brothers and an older sister. And he would say that he's lonely in the winter even though people are there. And I know exactly what he mean. Like, I grew up in a house with a lot of people. And even though I grew up in a house with a lot of people, I always felt that I was alone. I always felt like, I don't want to call it underappreciated. Like really, like what it was like I really didn't feel like love. Like I didn't grow up with parents that told me they loved me. I didn't grow up with, getting a lot of attention. I always felt like I was like a hassle to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always told by my mom that she never wanted to have any more kids. The only reason she had another kid because my dad wanted to have a kid. Because she had a daughter with someone else, my older sister, and she ended up marrying my dad, and my dad wanted a child, and she didn't want a child. She always told me how she didn't want a child. So that was one thing where I kind of felt like, okay, well, she didn't really want me here. And then when it comes to my dad had lost his dad at an early age. And my dad didn't really know how to like really be a parent. So he was more like my big brother, or like more type of an uncle to me. So with growing up with that, like, they gave me like a lot of doubt. They gave me a lot of not being confident in myself, and with that put this thing of me of like even today, like, I don't like to reach out to people. I don't like calling people because I feel like I'm bothering, someone. And when I listen to Cudi's music and him putting it all out there of the bad relationship that he has with his two brothers, and him having to resort to drugs to get through what he was dealing with. Now, that's one thing that is very different between me and him. I've never done any drugs. I've always channeled a lot of that energy into music, and music is what get me out of like a lot of situations. And Cudi's really the only artist that really touched me in that way of like, he's the most relatable person to me of all the people that I listen to. Like, his music stands out to the point of like, it's so genuine and it's so, I don't know, like it's so authentic. And listening to his interview with Zane Lowe on Apple TV, um, and he was talking about this album, and he was talking about some of the things that he was going through within himself when it came to the music. And Man on the Moon, like I was first introduced to Kid Cudi, um, was Day and Night, and I like Day and Night. Um, you know, I liked it enough for me to go out and purchase the album, and I purchased the album, and it started with "In My Dreams," a Cutter anthem, and then like once you keep going and you hear a soundtrack to my life, and it was just like, oh my god, it's like that shit sounds like me in a way. And it was something that was so different. And he talked about, with Zane Lowe, he talked about the pursuit of happiness, in quotations, nightmare. And he said, I had no blueprint to this. It was so different. Like he didn't know how people was gonna react to pursuit of happiness, because it was something that was so out of the ordinary that it wasn't no, well, hey, this person did this, so this is like the way that I can gauge what I'm doing. There was no meter gauge or whatever that could tell you how this is gonna go, and all of this type stuff. And then it takes you to Man on the Moon 2. And what's great about this trilogy that he has going on is, so in the "In My Dreams" song has this thing that starts out and say doom 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 doom, and like the very first song of Man on the Moon 2, The Legend of Mr. Rager, Scott Muscati versus the World, featuring my guy CeeLo. It does that same thing where it says doom 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 doom, and then he also does the same thing in Beautiful Trip. So like he got this thing that he does that he continues it, and then also he does Solo Dolo, right? And he made that into a trilogy on Man on the Moon 2 is called Mojo So Dope. And then on the third one, it's called Solo Dolo 3. So like he has these things where he interjects these different types of things to go along with this Man on the Moon trilogy type thing that he's doing. And to me, Man on the Moon 2 was my favorite. And he spoke about Man on the Moon 2 and talked about the issues that he was going on with that album, and how he went to rehab, and how he took a year off after this album. His daughter was born, you know, the same year this album came out. So he was going through these different changes, and he has a song on there called Mr. Rager. And when I was going through a lot of the shit that I was going through in my life, I would listen to like the sound, like the tracks that really got me through a lot of things was Scott Muscati versus the World, Don't Play This Song, We Alright, Wake Your Mind Up. That's the same song. Um, Maniac was something that really stood out to me. Mr. Rager, These Worries, and especially All Alone. And All Alone is one of those tracks that's, it's very similar to The Pursuit of Happiness. And it's like when you listen to it, like it just does this thing to you where it's like, if you deal with a lot of stuff in your brain and you have that feeling, and like the thing about feeling alone where a lot of people don't understand. It's like even if you have people that you can reach out to help you. Jill Scott has a song called I'm Lonely When You're Around. Even though you're in a relationship, even though this person is laying in the bed right next to you, you still can feel alone. And like only some people can relate to that. Like everybody can't relate to it because like it's not disrespectful to say to someone that I feel alone and they're like, hey, you can call me if there's any problems and all of this type stuff, but like there's just something that's just different about it. And he's that artist that really came into the game and reshaped it and created this own lane because Cudi, even though he created this own lane, like he said in an interview that the dude asked him, he was like, what album did you listen that you can listen to all the way through that will reshape? Not reshape, but necessarily like you can listen through all the way through that like gives you inspiration. And he was like Stakeonia. He said that immediately. And then he was like anything Outcast. And when I think about him, I also think of someone that's similar to him is Andre 3000, which was great that he was able to get an Andre 3000 song on Passion Pain and Demon Slain. They was able to do a song together, and I thought that what's great about Cudi is he is really good about picking people to jump on albums with him, like he did By Design with him. But the crazy thing was when he talked about that album, he talked about Frequency and Swimming the Light, which is like my two favorites. So I'm like, it's my top songs on that album that came out in 2016, and I get lost with words trying to explain a guy like Cudi because his music is so different and people I know that my ex used to get on me about Cudi and they'd be like, this is the weirdest shit I ever heard and it's stupid. And I was like, you're calling it stupid because you don't get it. You don't understand. And I remember he did Kid Cudi presents Satellite Flight, the journey of the Mother Moon. Well, the journey to Mother Moon. And like he has these songs on there like Internal Bleed, right? Well, Internal Bleeding. Like that song, it's like I know they try to call it like emo rap, but like Internal Bleeding is one of those songs that I will listen to and it's nothing that I can't think of anything that sounds anything like Internal Bleeding. And when I'm in like one of those type of moods where I'm like, because I'm gonna put it this way, I'm naturally a sad guy. Like that's my natural emotion. Like when I think about like 24 hours in a day, like you know what I'm saying, more than half of it, I am I'm more mellow. I wouldn't say I'm sad, but I'm not like upbeat and like I know that when I do podcasts with my guy Scoots Bronson, like I could just tell by like the movies that he enjoy in the movies that he really like especially like from his top five that we did. We did our top five favorite movies of all time, and he had like three comedies. Well, kind of more like four really, and I didn't have any in mind But a lot of the movies that I enjoy are more like drama based movies, horror movies, sad type of stuff. And like that's really like a lot of my emotions a lot of the time. And he got a song on a new album called Sad People, and that's what I mean, like when I talk about Cudi, man, because it's like I get what he's saying when he's putting the song out to sad people. And like one song on there, he got The Void. And at the end of The Void, like he's talking to all of the depressed people. And people don't realize that depression is like a real thing. I don't think that I would have been considered clinically depressed, but like I went through a time of my life, especially through 2018 and 19, where I was like super depressed to the point where it affected my parenting. It affected me wanting to conversate with people. It affected me wanting to leave where I stayed. I had so much stuff going on and so much stuff going wrong to the point where I would have a 9, 10-year-old kid look at me and say, "Dad, why are you sad?" You know what I'm saying? So Kid Cudi's music and him being so vulnerable, like it really gets people through things by listening to this music. So he means more to me as an artist than anybody that I listen to. And for him to be as vulnerable as he is and to lay all of that stuff down, like it takes a very special person to be able to do something like that. And I just really, really appreciate somebody like him, man, because to be, and that also lets you know that no matter how much money you got, even when you think about a guy like Mac Miller, rest in peace to him. He's another guy um, that I have to credit. I have to give him credit because his last two albums, Swimming and Circles, Circles is a classic. Um, no one's gonna consider it one, but to me it is. And I hate what happened to Mac Miller, and I think that that's why I am so happy that a guy like Kid Cudi went to rehab and was able to clean himself up and get rid of that because Mac wasn't able to do that in enough time. And I mean, the guy ended up getting arrested and sold him the drugs because he had an accidental overdose. Ended up finding some stuff in the drugs, and they ended up arresting the guy that sold him those drugs. But like Matt Miller's album Circles, really got me through a lot as well. Because I was listening to a lot of Mac Miller and Kid Cudi, and I know to some people you probably thinking like, "Damn, dude, that's why you was depressed because you was listening to depressing music." But I think that I needed that music to mellow myself out to where I wouldn't do no crazy shit. To resort to drugs or alcohol to get me through those times. Like I felt like I needed to listen to these two artists, mostly Cudi, but to listen to these two artists, go through their tough times, like it tells you like, yo, you're not alone at this. Like you're not the only one that's going through things. Like, you know, you think the shoes that you're walking in hurt, you know, try to walk through these as well. And it was like one of those type of things where you listen to someone else's problems, and you listen to their depression, and you listen to their battle through drugs and all of that type stuff. And that's why this dude means more to me than anybody. Like, I love listening to Drake. I love listening to J. Cole. I love listening to Rhapsody. You know what I'm saying? I love listening to Wale and Kendrick Lamar when it comes to rappers. When it comes to R&B people, like I love listening to Jill Scott. I love Erica Badu. I love her. I love Janae Aiko. I love Miguel. Like I love like listening to a lot of people. But like, in music, Soul Child, cannot forget him. But like Cudi stands out to me because he took a leap of faith. Um and Matt really did it too because Matt music changed. Matt got more musical. He started singing more on things. Cudi came out the gate like that. Um, and he also came out the gate of starting his own lane and having a base of people that follow him. And he doesn't try to get more famous. He doesn't try to change what he's doing. Like what I love, about Cudi is the fact that he knows what the fans want and he will give you what he want. Like he talked about doing the Kids See Ghosts, and he was like he was able to make happy music, and he was excited about making happy music and doing a song like Reborn. And Reborn was my favorite song on that album. What sucks about it is the fact that if you take the personal stuff out of it when it comes to Kanye, um, that album was cool. Um, I love the Cudi part of it, and to hear a guy say that I was really kind of reborn at that time, coming out with that song, and that song actually means a lot, and it meant a lot to me. Reborn was something that I also played a lot when I was battling, through my through my issues and being depressed about a lot of things. Reborn was a song that I would play to tell myself like, yo, with this situation I am reborn. Because like I went through like a different, it wasn't just like one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like one thing that I dealt with was, actually leaving my kid's mother and having to start over and having to stay with my dad for 2 months, and able to get my own place, but I didn't have any furniture because I left with nothing. I just left with my clothes, and having to deal with, you know, my kids sleeping on an air mattress and me sleeping on the floor until I can, get enough money to actually furnish my place and get everything that I needed. And like I would listen to Reborn and be like, yo, things may not be great right now. And, in my mind, I'm a bad father because I don't have, my place fully furnished. And like my kids don't have a TV to watch. They can only watch their tablets because, when I didn't take anything. And my whole thing was, I'm going to start from the bottom and I'm going to build myself up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my whole thing. And like, what Reborn meant to me was, I'm going out on a leap of faith on my own, and I'm going to pay bills by myself. I'm going to raise these kids by myself. I am going to take a new path of doing everything on my own, and that was what Reborn was to me. So when people say Cudi saved my life, like that's what I mean. When I was angry, I would listen to Mr. Rager. When I was angry, I would go to Insidious, the Insidious album, and listen to Mad Solar. You know what I'm saying? So that was the type of stuff. And not only would Cudi give you that, like, you know, I was out in the world again. You know what I'm saying? And Cudi would give you stuff like Bomani Jeans. You know what I'm saying? He would give you stuff like, you know, pretty girls. I see pretty girls everywhere I go with, you know what I'm saying, with Too Short. You know, he would give you was it I think it's Distant Fantasies. So he can give you a whole different variety of different things. But like, yes, a lot of his music is depressing, but like it means a lot to someone like me. So when someone tells me that Cudi isn't valuable in this game, you're wrong. And this Man on the Moon 3 is a great project. I want y'all to be on the lookout for. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm gonna put it on this platform because I like with doing this subject matter as the subject matter being Cudi Saved My Life 2, and I did the first version on the Stolen Time podcast. And what I used to do on the Stolen Time podcast is I would give you my top 10 either rap albums or album of the year type of review type of thing. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to put that on this platform or keep it going on the Stolen Time platform. So be on the lookout for top 10 albums of the 2020. This Man on the Moon 3 is definitely going to be in there. I listened to it enough to where I think I can add it to that list. It's been on repeat all weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. Before I get out, man, shout out to Uncle Washington, man, my co-host of the Stolen Time podcast. Shout out to my Viewers Anonymous podcast co-host Scoots Bronson. We just did one in the lab, so it's gonna be another one coming out soon. So be on the lookout for that. It's on all major platforms, both of those. Shout out to Casey, my favorite producer. That's music that you hear in the background. I appreciate that dude. He's another dude that helped me in this depressing time. Like this dude, you know what I'm saying, knew how much of a Rhapsody fan I was. This dude dragged me out. You know what I'm saying? Not physically, but dragged me out of, you know what I'm saying, my place and took me to a concert to see Rhapsody and Big Crit, man. Paid for it and everything. So that's what type of friend this dude is, man. I really, really, really appreciate that guy, man. So shout out to Casey. Shout out to Candace, man, who gives me feedback on all these podcasts. Hope she appreciates something like this. Um, so I would love to hear her feedback on this episode as well. Shout out to Jamar. Shout out to Sinclair. Shout out to Mark. I appreciate everybody for listening. Also, man, rate, subscribe to this podcast, 28 minutes or less. Let me know what you think. Um, so leave a review on that. Go follow the Stolen Time Pod on Instagram. Follow s.foster8 on Instagram and Twitter. Follow the Stolen Time Podcast page on Facebook and follow the VA Podcast Watch Group page on Facebook. We need to build up that following for the Viewers Anonymous podcast. And this was S. Foster. This was episode 29 of the 28 Minutes or Less podcast. And I'm out.